Hello and welcome to the next episode of the new Earth Architectress. And today we have a special, very, very special guest. I cherish her very much as a collaborator. Her name is Kata Trom, and she is the creator of Mindspace Method. She's also the author of Why is the Chair Over There? An amazing title for a book. And I think she may be sharing maybe some nuggets of a future book that is in the works. And she is an intuitive space crafter, designer, not quite designer, but a creator, and has a very deep philosophy and spiritual philosophy about our relationship with our home, the objects in our homes, the furniture in our home, which is really rooted in an impulse that inspired her through her various travels around the world and her own research, spiritual research. So I'm so excited to have you on the show, Kata. Welcome. It's a delight to have you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you again. Yeah.
Yes. And entering into the energy of summer in the northern hemisphere. Now we just the solstice just passed, and the spirit of summer is very present. I find that summer has a tendency to break all the rules, break the structure, and things start to kind of fall apart, and also open up for more joy and more fun and more playing. But it can also be challenging to focus and work. So what do you feel about that, Kata? About the energy of summer?
But I agree with you partly that the energy is really about like breaking away from school or certain types of jobs, and for a few months during the summer. But my life has never been following this rhythm. I mean, what other people's in general. So with this freedom that you mentioned and falling apart, I experience that often actually intuition comes in. So it's not only reserved for the winter time that you tend to be at home and close, but also in the summer, but intuition outside, because you can be in nature and all the birds. Like this morning, the last few weeks, actually, I wake up around 5 o'clock, and I am actually maybe even before, but I stay in bed until 5. And although I live in the nice and green side of Budapest, it's the capital of Hungary, but still we have a lot of birds this time now. And I just love how it's like in the busiest and happiest hours between 4 and 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And also I feel that for us humans, that's because later on, that's an important time in the summer, because later it might be too hot during the day that you sometimes have even, difficulties moving your body. But the morning hour is really inspiring.
Absolutely, isn't it? The other day, an a small owl came and just landed right in front of my studio door and gazed at me with his piercing eyes. And so I've been tuning into that. But the birds, I love that. The birds, and there's something about the connection with intuition there. I love it. It's beautiful. Before we deepen in this realm of intuition and an intuitive approach to reading and relating and living in our spaces, whether they be our homes, our gardens, communities, cities, I'd love for you to share a bit about your background for audience listeners and audience members who don't know who you are. Where how did the mind space method all begin?
Well, actually, I think all my life I've been preparing for this.
Yeah.
And as I write in my first book that you mentioned, and actually in Hungarian, mind space method, or we term it differently, but in English somehow it didn't work. In Hungarian, instead of mind, we have the soul. And to make it even more spiritual. And so actually I coined this term mind space method or soul space method, meaning that that our souls have different parts and spaces, and each space on the earth, on Gaia, cities, streets, homes, or even certain rooms, or all the rooms actually, have their own soul and frequency and energy, and that these two are not really two in a way, but one, and are in constant communication. And so I'm really interested in what's inside in a person's, not only physical, but spiritual realms, and how you engage with the outer world, and actually how you discover that we are all connected and through the energy, and that everything is energy. And going back to where this mind space method came from, really, even as a child, I was engaged with energies. I didn't know it back then. I wasn't conscious. But I would, for example, play with my breath. I would hold my breath and experiments like, what if I don't take a breath? What will happen? And but even as a 5-year-old, I would experiment with my body, and actually these silent moments, for example, really helped later on to find and realize the feeling when an intuition comes, so that you can distinguish between a thought, or where the thoughts come from, or when it's something higher, and then you can really manifest something that's essentially you, and that really leads you to live a life and create environments the way you would like to. And to get more physical and down to earth, I have a background in art history, and I have an MA, but during university I realized that I'm interested more in architecture than fine arts, although before that I thought that I love colors, I love textiles, painting, sculpture, that it's more the fine art part. But I realized that no, it's for me, the bigger structure, like let's say like as a building has. And even the plans were fascinating me, how a plan of a building actually holds everything. That's the key, because then when a building is built, the wall is built, then you actually give space or give a body to that plan. And then all things and different things can happen depending on what energies and qualities that plan has. So after university, I realized that I'm more interested in architecture, but it's too late to study architecture. And actually, I had enough of the traditional, conventional university brain using only your brains and data and facts and numbers and dates. So I spent quite a few years actually trying to forget all this, to forget all the knowledge, and to really experience spaces, private homes, or any space and buildings without any preconception and without any attachment of thought about style or shape or what that means. And so I started to bring in this energy that I was always interested. And also I interpreted for two very important people in my life who work with the invisible. One is Marco Pogasznik.
Yes.
And he has a wonderful way of communicating with all the worlds, basically, of Gaia in all dimensions. And and the other person I interpreted was teaching metaphysics. So the Eastern spiritual tradition, and in a way the Western spiritual tradition, and talking to nature spirits and nature in a different way than what's the average or what's the custom, really inspired me. And somehow I wove in all these experiences with
So beautiful.
With my original studies. And you mentioned travel in my introduction.
Yeah.
My travels. Yes, although I was born and I live in Central Europe. In high school, I lived 4 years in Japan in an international school, and which was amazing because it really opened up me in two different ways, meeting so many interesting people from different cultures. We had 58 nationalities in our school. And it was a girls' school, and we had to wear a uniform. So I was really, and everybody in fact, but I especially had this habit even back then to see beyond, not to judge by the clothes or the hairstyle, because we were all wearing the same clothes. So you really had to feel the person and into it. And not to have any judgment. And so really, it's just to be open and sense people's energies. And so that's the personal side. And also living in Japan after Hungary and arriving there was a great shock, really a cultural shock. It's so different, their concept of everything. And I translated handwritten. I borrowed a book from the library. I have no idea why at 16 I decided to translate a book into Hungarian about Shintoism and the Japanese way of seeing nature spirits and connecting to yes, the shrines and the temples and how everything is alive. Everything is of energy, like a stone or a tree, and so it really went deep inside me, really like under my skin. So I have this sensitive approach since then to everything around us, and that's why I came up with mind space method. Actually, I didn't come up with it; it just wanted to get born.
Birth through you.
Yeah, so it's not an ideology, it's not a concept. I didn't think hard and then write down the rules and the steps, and I'm not following. When I consult with people, I don't go through the same question or so there's no rule in mind space method. It's all spontaneous and intuitive approach to sensing the client or my students, depending on who what you are doing, and their home. And I find people are really they would like to think differently and feel more and be more intuitive, but they don't trust themselves enough. So they still ask someone else like me to help. And I like helping only to an extent where I teach. So that, and I think that's the part and that's the task that we should be doing. That with our clients also, it's more of a teaching and revealing what they would like, what would come from them. So I don't impose anything.
Oh, I love it.
So
Kata.
I started answering your question, but we kind of wandered.
No, it gave us gives us a big broad picture of how this impulse got birthed through you. And you talk about a really important point that this teaching, this guiding or mentoring your clients along this path and allowing what wants to come forward from them, rather than a typical conventional interior designer where she or he would, probably gather a bunch of photos that the client has collected from Pinterest or Instagram or whatever. And this has happened to me so much working in various firms around the world. I even ran my own company studio in Turkey for quite some time before the sacred blueprint got birthed through me. And I would have this experience, Kata, where, and that's just how it went. That's just how it was. You get a bunch of pictures from your clients' ideas, right? That they have preconceived ideas about what they think their space should look like, based on maybe what society tells them it should look like, based on maybe some subconscious things that they're not aware of, right? And some desires and some things, some of the images, I'm not saying it's all bad. Some of it has some magic in it, but it can be very like, whoa, okay. And now it's the task of the architect or the designer to match those images, or vice versa, where the architect and the designer is so, you could use the word egotistical, or so wanting their own style to be imposed on another client or their clients, that I just picture like a caricature, like the ones you see in the newspapers with like clients sitting in their living room, very like alien to their own living room because it doesn't fit with their soul, right? I remember having a conversation with some clients saying that, we love the building, we love our home, it's an award-winning home, but it's the architect's home, it's not our home.
Absolutely. And it's like a facade. It's something that you show when you show to the outside world, but it's not really a home.
You talk a lot
actually
about that.
I don't the way I work actually is I teach like professionals in the interior design, or architects, or people from any interest and work basically, and job. And when I'm working with clients, and I'm really happy that in the past few years people found me thinking that I'm through my website and my books maybe, that I'm an interior designer who is more soulful, or who uses colors and who goes a little bit not against the mainstream, but definitely on a more individual and taking a more individual approach. And these people wanted me to help them make their homes. But to be honest, after some time I realized that I'm not interested so much in creating a new home.
Right.
And I mean, I can help choosing the tiles, choosing the everything, and how to arrange. But for me, the people are more interesting, and people's consciousness and people's developments. So instead of moving around objects and then creating something nice, I had this wish that I would like clients who live in spaces and they already have their own home, but feel that something is missing or something is not right. And so they would call me to help them around physically, like on the level of the objects and furniture, but also to ask more spiritual questions, like how it reflects and why is it so important to live with things that are really representing them and their consciousness and their awareness, and because everything is energy, and everything in your surroundings is constantly vibrating towards you. It's not only human people or humans and animals and plants, or living beings who emanate energy. Also a piece of furniture that's made of wood, because it was once wood, and it contains all the energetic impulse of a tree. And so if you choose with this sensitivity, the things around you, then it makes you really can bring things in your rooms and homes and houses and also in your life that are in themselves are already radiating life and life energy and positive energy, and not something that belongs to the past or past generations, for example.
And why does that help, Kata? Sorry, did I interrupt you, what you were just about to say?
No.
Yeah, I mean,
ahead.
bringing life into the space. Why is this important, Kata? You know, what kind of possibilities, what are the possibilities and the opportunities for people to work in this way, to be inspired by mind space method or soul space method, be inspired by your work? What you talk about helping people and their growth and their personal development. What does this approach provide people? How does it benefit?
Well, then, well, if you bring in things to your spaces that are alive through colors, their material, then already, and that in themselves or those in themselves create nice environment, but that's only the basics. That's only a structure. And then comes in your relationship to these things, your relationship to your sofa, to your bookshelf, whatever. Because if you like them and feel that they are part of they are helping friends, like our things in our houses are like, of course I wouldn't call them people, but they are helping us. We live together. And so if you have positive thoughts, good memories connected to certain things, or you collected certain objects through traveling to different parts of the world. So the main idea is that what comes from you and your experiences and what you like and what you have chosen at one point, and what you are choosing at the moment, it's not by chance that you're choosing and collecting those things. That's why I don't believe that someone else can choose for you. That this would be okay, or this is really fashionable, and this will go well in the magazine. Yes, but it's not alive. It's not because you and your spiritual energies feel the spaces, not only spiritual, your higher energy and every your emotions and your thoughts, they are all there, lingering in the space you are in, and these energies enliven everything that's in the room. It takes a little time. I'm sure everybody has the feeling that when you move into a house that's newly built, and you have furniture in already and a few plants, it looks nice, but it doesn't feel ready yet, because every part that what it is in the space needs to befriend one another. They have to get, like, even the door and the doorknob need to, get used to each other. And then eventually the door will be born. And that's a nice feeling when suddenly it's not only these things that you chose, this kind of doorknob and that type of door put together, but after a while of just being together in one space with this consciousness that these objects help you, and they are like, everything is coded energy and has a coded energy pattern. And if this pattern is harmonious and beautiful and lively, then these patterns add up, and your space will be like a space where when people come in, they feel they are charged. And because because somehow everything is in place for some time. And of course, as our lives change and our inner spaces change, we need to rearrange things after a while. So I'm not talking about creating this wonderful fixed pattern and then live there 20 years.
Right, like that it's static. Yeah. I love that.
And going back to the question why it's important to be more conscious, for example, a room or a house, each room belongs and represents different archetypes or different parts of our soul or different parts of our personal makeup, or even our destiny, and or even planets can be linked, or I'm not saying the planets govern because they don't govern anything, even not our horoscope, but that's how somehow we can relate to energies. So people who I teach, or when we consult, I also talk about this, that, for example, your living room, it's the room of the sun. That gives a lot of energy, but it also represents what you show to the other world. Not the other world, just the outside world, like how you represent and how you stand in the world, how safe you are within your own center, and how you shine, and what's your what's your sun. And that's the living room, for example. And the kitchen is the moon area. Even if a man lives by himself, that's his moon, and that represents how he to what extent he likes to share things with other people, or feed other people, or nurture. But it doesn't mean nurturing only feeding physically. It's emotional.
Right.
Like the kitchen is an emotional. The living room is more a mental space. So you can also, if you find that you have some issues in the kitchen around cooking, or you would like to have friends come over and eat, but nobody does, or then you can look around in this area and see how you could strengthen the moon quality, or just bring in certain energies that help. So it's so I'm stuttering because it's it's such a vast subject, and it's just amazing to enter into any space, really, and start to have a conversation with the space and the client, maybe, and how you then. I always improvise because I listen to my intuition. And so, as I said before, there are no certain sets of questions. But I allow myself to be present. And I think that's also a key, that we would like people just want quickly to have things and achieve. And I buy
what's
this
the answer?
And then what's the answer, and how I can quickly do this, and they don't listen and just close their eyes and just really feel, what do you want right now? And eventually you realize that not what you want, but what you that we don't have time not to be in time, not to be in the endless time. So the world is so noisy and running around, and is about achieving material things, that it really diverts our attention from the truth of why we are here. And so if you spend referring back to how to bring life to any space, if you just spend time there, you just sit there. And I'm not saying you should meditate. To be honest, I don't meditate because I already have somehow a calmer energy, and more meditative.
Yeah.
But just to enjoy sitting in your armchair and just read or drink some tea and talk to your plants, have plants. That's the first thing, to be able to talk to them.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to have to bring in nature, because that's life, and we are parts of nature.
Yeah.
Not separate from it. And that's also so strange that in our modern buildings we try to really exclude nature.
Yeah.
We protect ourselves either from the heat or the cold, and have all these methods to
Right.
then warm our spaces, then cool our spaces, and like it's just it's never right. We never feel it's okay. And whereas if we had more, I don't know, thinner walls in a in a physical and non-physical sense, between the outer world and the inner world, I think it would also help communication and love to be between people. So it's and nature. So I find that's key. What you're also doing, really about we can learn so much from plants.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And when people, like clients say, or students say during the courses, oh, somehow plants, they always die in my house. I forget to water them. You know, these are the typical things. And I said, yeah, well, it's interesting. So it's if you have to think about the plant, I mean, if you forget, that means that you don't live with the plant. It's just there. It's like an object. It's like you put a book on the table, and it's a plant on the table, but you don't see that it's a living thing.
Right.
Because if you would live with the plant as you live with maybe with your family members, you would sense when it's thirsty or when it had too much water. And so going back, and that also refers, I refer back to this silence. Or just, it's like a focus time, and it doesn't have to be long.
Yeah.
And this way, even if you are in a shop for furniture, and you see so many things and so many shapes and colors, you can just, you know, try to feel like which one. It takes practice. It doesn't. I mean, it's hard to distinguish maybe, but after some practice, you would notice that even in a shop, certain objects kind of say, "I would like to come. I should be the one." If you have in your intention, like your let's say you want to make your own house, and you decided that, okay, I will need certain objects and certain furniture, and instead of looking at pictures, I would go right away and meet the object. So that's why I don't believe in online shopping, because you need to feel.
Yeah.
And also the object need, no matter how big it is, it could be a large furniture or a tiny glass, whatever. They need to feel you also. So it's a mutual attraction.
The mutual connection, dialogue.
Yeah. And especially the ones that you already have a dialogue with in the shop, definitely when you take it home, it would integrate. And the other objects wouldn't say like, oh, now who is this one?
Right.
Whereas I had clients tell me, and students, that they, in the shop, oh, this is lovely, they take it home, and then it looked nice, but it doesn't belong to them.
Right.
So that's also something. Yeah. So it's not about only the eyes that we should care about. You know, we are only like what we can see and hear,
especially
and
with the digital age.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
It's time to take our heads, off or down a little bit. And I try really to use mind space method. Really is about going back to your gut feeling, really, really instinct, and also your intuition and connecting.
I love it.
And it's lovely. Yeah. How all this, that's another topic or other aspects of mind space method, that your people's consciousness also is reflected in their homes.
Right.
So you can read everything from home. Yeah. About the
everything.
person.
Yeah. Just pulling up a quote from your book. I mean, all that you're sharing, and listening also to the vibrations in between the words that you share. What you help us do, what you help me do, certainly, and I'm curious if listeners feel the same way, is to slow down, ground, observe, be aware. And even the story about the plant, it's actually a story not only for the plant, but it's a story for every single object in our house. And that's what you talk about in your book, in the mind space method. And I'm sure, I haven't read the Why is the Chair over there yet, but that the objects are also living and that they need care and attention. And I remember in one, I don't know if it was in the book or if you said it, if you shared it in a previous interview I had with you, but when you give the object more attention and care, in a way, it lasts longer.
Yeah.
I love that.
I that's my personal experience.
Yeah.
And actually Hungarian, of course, I write in Hungarian and then it's translated into English, and we have a metaphysical language, almost. Some people compare it to Sanskrit, which means that certain expressions we use really express fundamental truths energetically.
Right. An essence, right? Yeah.
An essence. And for example, when you pay attention, it's interesting that you use you pay with money.
Right.
And in Hungarian, we say like you baptize it, you baptize attention, or you kind of sanctify
the attention.
So the adjective or the verb is not pay. It's this. I don't know what's the word in English, but it has, and that made me realize,
like blessing
that,
it, like blessing or baptizing or wow.
So when you bless an object with, we could maybe say this, when you bless and baptize an object with your attention.
That's a totally different feeling.
Then that's what you do. So I realized that even our language has this. People don't know it. People don't. I mean, Hungarian, the average Hungarian people don't are not aware of this. They are not thinking along these lines. But because I write and I find it's important to, what we say, and because we create through our words. And I love to come up with new words, like mind space method is, and new expressions, because then it's something, somehow a new quality. And then
more contemporary, or future contemporary rather. There's a quote here that I'm reading here. There was this one, and I have a question also about the sacral being. When we take time to surround ourselves with furniture and objects that are not only there out of habit, but because we like and cherish them, Our home may support us in reaching our desires in more ways than we would have imagined. I don't know which chapter that's from. And that's just, that's so key. I find that people waste so much time with unaligned spaces, and they wonder why their business doesn't go well, or their relationships don't go well, right? Why they have health issues, or they get frustrated, or they don't have the creative flow that they want. I mean, I'm in the midst of a house construction, Kata, and I am, my body is going through all kinds of transformations from, and challenges, from panic attacks to joy, to emotion, to crying, to feeling like my whole inner temple is being disassembled and put back together again. And so that's just living proof that our homes are directly connected to our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what your quote here is just, it's so beautifully put, that it's just, our home may support us in reaching our desires in more ways than we would have ever imagined. And I mean, but the key is to be able to see in that deeper, in an inner way, like you are sharing with us, using the intuition. You know, I've seen so many disasters with clients and past projects, you know, building permits not going through, major roof issues, and you know, like problems with the house, all this. And I'm not saying this to say that a house needs to be perfect. A roof leaking and taking care of the house and actually mending and taking care of this being, I think, is probably more aligned with your approach, rather than it being this perfect system, mechanical, right? You know, like, just like you were saying, the temperature. Well, wait a second, let the house get cold and put on a really nice wool sweater that you really love, or maybe that grandma knit. Right? Feel the cold a little bit. I mean, I personally like the thick walls. That's someone, I'm finding that for me personally, I enjoy more of the cave-like. I personally don't like that many windows. That's actually more my style. And I've created a studio in my space that doesn't have very many windows, for example. Thick walls, the clay and the natural materials are really important for me. But I love what you say, like whether the wall is actually physically thin, or if you can somehow with your consciousness make that thinness, right? To consciousness, and also practically, like, why does the house always need to be the perfect 25, you know, I mean, some people do too hot, in my opinion, in the winter time, right? And then you can't really think straight. Or, you know, I've actually noticed now it's very hot in Izmir. I've noticed that I have, through my trainings with being in hot weather, that I'm actually learning how to slow down even more. And I'm amazed at how calm I can stay in heat. Before, I used to be like, I need to jump into the water. I'm going to have an overheat. I'm going to go crazy. Like my emotions would just, you know, I couldn't bear the heat. I'm someone who sweats a lot, and I have like generate a lot of energy. And I'm surprised now, like, okay, all right, these tiny houses that we're living in, they're metal structure, they're thin, they get very hot. Okay, sometimes we do need to turn on the air conditioner in one of them. In this one, we don't have it, but it's a good, to experience nature, to experience the seasons, to experience the cycles, to feel what it feels like on our body.
Your body. Yeah, absolutely. So it's if you live, let's say, going back to this temperature thing, if you set it to 23, all year long, then you don't experience, yes, the change of the
Yeah.
season. And yes, I love to have, but for me personally, in the winter time, around 20 is fine for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Us too. Yeah.
and I like to sleep in 16,
Yeah.
17.
Very cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love to have warm blankets,
Yeah.
but cold air, or cool to
Yeah.
sleep,
Yeah.
definitely. And it's nice to have these, yeah, sweaters and jumpers so that your body knows that when it's summer, you can, really melt in the
Yeah. Your
space.
body.
And then,
Yeah.
and then in the winter, you kind of more, somehow you become more,
Yeah. You
I
curl
don't
up
know.
into a ball. You
Yeah,
fold your
yeah,
feet under your,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
But it's nice to have, to have actually these physical sensations. I also find many people are not connected really to their bodies.
No.
They are not
And yeah.
connected to their bodies, and they are not connected to their soul. It's only the mental, as we talked about it
Yeah.
before. So actually, everything we talk about is just so simple, and so and not the solution, but the way to
Yeah.
develop and to create life sustaining and life giving spaces is really about just to be present and to connect
Mm.
all our levels. Since we have these,
Mm.
we should use them all.
Yeah.
And really, I think what is now esoteric and what's considered to be, invisible, becomes, if we connect, and also because the energies on the planet are changing, I think many things will become exoteric, and more people will find that we are connected to nature and to the physical and to the spiritual, and I believe that the mental body of the whole planet will lose its rule that it has now.
Mm.
And then
Mm.
and your work and my work is part in this,
Yeah.
uh, raising the other, or giving attention and life to the other realities and the other
Yeah.
aspects of the humans. And if we create these living and harmonious homes, that radiates, that reflect our own soul and our own consciousness and desire and nature, then our home cannot be other than really a positive, a being that emanates positive energy. And we have these islands emanating all this positive energy, like light. Then that also raises,
Yeah.
in itself, raises the consciousness, or the energy of a city, of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It just ripples out. It ripples
yeah.
out. You start
Mm.
to shift your relationship with the
Yes.
neighbors, or
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
so I
street
believe
and
in
the,
this,
yeah.
in this bigger context. So actually working, you might say that if we are only dealing with our own development and our own homes,
Mm.
why is it important? It's
Like we have
egocentric.
such
No,
big
it's not.
problems in the world.
Yeah,
Let's, we have
yeah,
to save
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
oceans,
Yes,
and
yes.
yeah.
So my approach is just the opposite. That yes, that's our task, that's our responsibility, or at least that's something that I can do. I cannot change politics. I cannot change from, like
Right.
those things that you mentioned, but I can change and lead people or help people to change and develop their own inner and outer spaces. And then it's like, yeah, lighting more and more, yeah, just
Yeah.
giving more and more lights to
I love it.
the planet. Yeah.
And as you share this, Kata, as you support other people um, to bring that light, that consciousness to their inner and outer environments, then they then become more connected to their souls themselves, their desires, right? Reaching your desires in more ways than you can imagine, in that quote that you had that in the book, to help open the way for one's true potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I know for certain that, you know, connecting with the house construction, I've been connecting with the being of the house, and it's surprising me too. You know, I'm getting to know this being that is growing. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you're turning out like this, and oh, okay. There's some things that I've just let go of and allowed the builders to also construct. And I realize that that's one of the keys in this process of a more inner, intuitive, conscious way of building things, rather than me being the ego control architect. There's a certain element of trust, right? Trust in my husband, trust in the builders, and like, okay, I didn't really picture it like that in the beginning, or, you know, and it's
That's
like,
wonderful.
okay, it just happened like this. And so to get to know what creature or what being has emerged. And that's a beautiful process, really. And I'm really grateful for your work, because the book is just, I mean, women and men who are listening, it's such an incredibly profound, beautiful book, Mind Space Method. And I recommend you also purchase the Why is the Chair Over There? Kata, are you in process of writing another book? Are you? Yes, no, maybe?
I'm still preparing.
Okay.
I feel I should, but it's a completely different. So there's a phase when I get inspiration. Also, like my students inspire me with their questions,
Right.
and because they and also clients. So when I have to tune in to their spaces anyway. So I'm collecting these, because in my books, in the book you read, I give like case studies, or I often draw from experience. So I'm still in the phase of connecting and collecting these, and
Beautiful. I love that.
hopefully by next year. I cannot promise,
Yeah.
but
Oh, that's so
it will
amazing,
happen.
though, through the questions that it's birthing, through collecting these questions from your students and your clients. That's
Yes.
really beautiful. Like, they're like these doorways. I'm just picturing these questions as these doorways opening into this next inspiration or work. I love it.
But it will be definitely more about nature, and how to bring in the elemental world in our and beings in the home, and how to make the home more alive.
So important. I'm just getting shivers now, because this is such a profoundly important time to be doing this, Kata. With now the metaverse exists. I don't know if you've heard of the metaverse. So this is a digital world, which is only for this mental mind. I don't want to make a judgment. I've never experienced the metaverse, so it's probably best that I can't speak so much for it, but I trust my intuition. And I have concerns that architects are now building projects for the metaverse, while they're making a lot of money doing it. And I support architects and designers making lots of money, because it's easy to build something in a simulated world. And I was meditating on this a lot, and I'm asking myself, okay, well, where is the judgment coming from? What is my discomfort with this? You know, maybe it's okay. You know, I really want to step into the possibilities here. Okay, there could be some great possibilities where you guide your client through a vision, right? But we're already doing that with 3D modeling and stuff. So anyway, I'm just tying back to this, the nature, and bringing the elementals in, the nature spirits into the spaces. They're not there. They're not in the metaverse.
Yeah, of course not.
And
there's no spirit. There's no spirit.
Yeah.
There's no spirit and there's no love in the metaverse. And because of that, there's no life.
Yeah. So what is it feeding? That's a question. It's a question to the listeners. Share in the comments if you're watching the YouTube video, or send us an email. Add in the comments in the Instagram posts that we share. What did I just ask?
What does metaverse feed? What is it feeding?
What does it feed? What does it feed? And that's a good question.
And what is it feeding us?
What does it feed? What is it feeding off of? This is a profoundly important question. And I ask the women architects and designers who are really hearing the call to work with their intuition, to be watching this, to be understanding what's really going on. And you may be feeling in your body some shifts, some emotions, some stress. And I'm not saying it's all attributed to the metaverse. You know, there's a lot of changes occurring on this planet. But what Kata is sharing is may sound so like, you know, for some people, really, it may sound like airy fairy, bring the nature spirits and the elementals into your home, but it's not. It's very serious work that it actually is serious work that is hanging on our humanity's survival in a way. And rather than survival, evolution and growth. Our humanity is currently being challenged on a big level. And so in closing, Kata, you know, what words do you have to share for women who are feeling this synthetic world, or who are feeling that it's really important to bring. Okay, let me rephrase this question. There are women right now who are on the edge. They feel like that they are needing to birth something. They know they have intuitive powers. They're interested in spiritual energetic work, but are too scared to cross the threshold, and they know that it's important to work with nature, but they're just kind of like not fully breaking open and taking the leap. What do you have as advice to share about this?
Well, we could go step by step. So it's not something that you don't need to jump anywhere, and nothing bad can happen. So you can maybe we talked about plants. I love plants. So just have a plant in your office or in your home and just talk to it. And just spend time and listen what it's saying, because it will, if you approach from the heart, of course you don't ask questions mentally, but from your heart, if you open to a plant, or you can go into a forest. Sea and ocean is a different thing now. It's wonderful, but it gives you different energies, and maybe to be able to grow the plant kingdom can help us better now than the water element, because they are also calm. So usually when people get agitated, it's because they are not grounded.
Right. Yeah.
So really to have a practice, physical practice, yoga or meditation or walking in the woods, whatever, and not to think about the outcome.
So important.
Just be, and just be in the present moment and just experience. You can ask also the forest questions from your heart. So really to ground somehow, and it will come. Your intuition will come if you don't try hard to hear it and experiment also. So if you have an idea suddenly comes, like let's say you're planning something, just draw it. And maybe not to use the computer much. I'm sure modern architecture is based on computers, so
all the time.
Yeah, and don't think about the rules when you have to make a final plan that's official and that has to be approved or whatever. I don't know what the legal terms or what the terms are for this.
Yeah.
So just play, just enjoy. Because also the process should just make it just take everything lighter and more easy. So just take it easy, and it's because that energy, when you take something easy, opens up something. And definitely your brain is not there trying to figure out solutions and answers and
or stressing
things in a box, or stressing or and starting to, I don't know, question you and make you like question when you're thinking of going, between two things, and it will only repeat, because our the mental part, the mental body, that's the way how it works, that it always asks the opposite. So it does never a really stable point in it. Whereas your gut feeling or your intuition is always clear. It's always straight forward. It's always one. It gives you one answer somehow. So yes, somehow manage to forget about your head.
Love it. Manage to forget about your head. More ease, be lighter. Yeah. And don't worry about think about the final outcome.
No. So because then you it's like you're here now and the final outcome is here. And we tend to be rational, knowing like, okay, I go.
Yeah, it's like that's like where I want to go, and that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
But then the life is not there, and that's what you are doing with your house, that you allow.
Yes. Exactly. A totally different trajectory to unfold.
And also, sorry, maybe if you allow this, maybe actually what you thought that this is the outcome, actually it's not here.
Right, exactly. It's a different point.
So you start going there, and then you say, but it's there still more.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So
much more joy-filled. Yeah, and playful, and not worrying that it needs to be perfect.
Yeah, definitely. No.
Yeah. As we close, I also want to share for the women or men as well who are watching the YouTube. I'm wearing one of Kata's stunning handmade necklaces. She puts so much consciousness and care. I feel like a priestess wearing this necklace. And they're all these individual beads put on, and this beautiful woven centerpiece. And she makes these handmade necklaces and sells them as well. So get in touch with her. They're a beautiful gift. Get in touch with her to order a custom or one that's already available in the store. Do you want to share a little bit about these before we close? Do you have the time, Kata?
Yes, I love seeing this piece on you, because usually when someone buys one, I don't really need them except my close friends.
Yeah.
And it's so great that we never met in person, but I keep seeing, because
the necklace is always here.
Yes, and I'm happy that you love it, and thank you for showing it to people. Yes, the centerpiece is I wove silk and wool.
Yeah.
And I use crystals, and these are individual pieces. I never make two of the same. And I try to combine different, not only different material, but sometimes different objects from different parts of the world or in different time, like older beads with new ones. So it's also like a connection of time and space, really. And after I make a piece, takes a few days. It's a similar process to what I said about the homes, that it takes some time to really, for all the objects to get to know each other and to then create a feeling of a home that it's really ready now. So after a few days pass, I give a name to each neck piece, and or they tell me their name. That's more like it. And I consciously only make neck pieces and only to be put here, because I find that this is our home altar. And
yeah, right here, just a bit
which is
above the heart.
which is also very important in our homes, actually, to have spaces, sacred spaces, and we can maybe talk about this another time.
That can be a part too.
Yeah. And the women, it's only for women. Somehow it's interesting. A few years back, some men asked me if I make necklaces for men, of course, without the weaving, but I couldn't, because I can be authentic only in creating, because it doesn't come from my mind and it's not a design. It's really feminine. These different energies of the feminine. I mean, there are stronger pieces depending on the color. And I try to combine all the elements also, but some are more watery, some are more fiery, some have the balance. So depending on what you feel like you need.
Yeah, they're all different ingredients.
Yeah.
So stunning. Wow. Kata, this has been such an amazing conversation. And I feel like there's so many other portals that we could open, from home as a sacred space, and deepening in the different zones and areas of the home, the living room, the kitchen, the bedroom, the children's room. Kata talks about this, writes about this in her book, The Mind Space Method. I highly recommend you to purchase it. It's a Kindle book. You can buy the digital, and it's such a lovely read, perfect for the summer, actually, for everyone in the Northern Hemisphere, and maybe also for those who are down under and moving into that are in the winter months.